belief, expectation, and ultimately failure. The cycle of the US men's national team. Since 2010, from that famous night in South Africa against Nigeria, the Landon Donovan winner in the 91st minute, all the way to the 2014 World Cup where John Brooks rises the highest to beat Ghana, and a 2-2 draw beat Portugal sends the United States to the next round of the World Cup. There were once a point where the US were on the cusp of becoming part of the greater footballing world. Not only becoming a filler team, a team to make up the numbers, but a competitive threat across the footballing world. However, since 2014, despite the quality and the expectation only rising, the performances and results stay the same, leading to a narrative of falling behind and not getting the best out of what you got. The most important thing to remember is, number one, this is America, okay? They don't like taking just being okay as a normal thing. This is America we're talking about here. Firstly, comment down below your thoughts about the state of the US men's national team, and especially after the recent Copa America performance, where do you see them going on for the big one, the 2026 FIFA World Cup? Now, fun fact, I was actually in America not too long ago, like 3 weeks ago, and when I went around to people speaking about the World Cup, like normal people, they weren't even aware there was even a World Cup in America. But hey, maybe that's a different story for another day. Right, okay. Do you like traveling? When I travel, all I do is play games. This is my gamer boy moments, and I'm so grateful that today we've got Matchmasters for this video. Matchmasters is the most popular match-free game which you can go and play PvP with your friends all across the entire world. Look at me there, mate. I'm a pig. It's super simple to understand as well. So we're going to get right here, and let's begin. So the main thing is boosters as well. So I'm currently in the lead, so I'm going to be advantage here. So I'm going to activate my booster here. Fireworks sets off. I'm on 32 points. This guy's on 12 because he's not as good as me, obviously. Oh my god. I'm on 64 points. He's used a duck on me. He's got a hammer. He's literally hammered it. Oh, wait, I've got a hammer too. So I've just do the hammer here. Pick a piece. Go right in the middle. There you go. Okay, I didn't make the right decision then. And I've won. See, even I can win. Even me. The link is down below the top of the description, or simply scan this QR code right here. Or maybe make it bigger. There you go. Scan it right there. Thank you to Matchmasters for sponsoring today's video. Let's get into it. The United States, once a nation which predominantly mocked the idea of the sport called football. Sorry, I mean soccer, for respect of my American listeners, which I'm sure will be on this video, I will call it soccer when necessary, but just so that we all are aware, it is football. So yes, the United States national team now has players from AC Milan, Juventus, PSV Eindhoven, Borussia Dortmund, 4 different players at different Premier League clubs. Monaco, Celtic, described as the golden generation. The hype and the demand has never been higher, and deservingly has never been higher, reaching a top level in the Bundesliga and La Liga, in leagues previously never even reached by many American football players. However, here we go again. Another brutal night for the US men's national team, which wasn't only beaten by Uruguay, but also by Panama in one of the most baffling ways we've ever seen, and kicked out of the 2024 Copa America in their own home competition. And as the players sat down on the ground, looking up to the sky, they all asked the same question alongside with the fans. How did the US men's national team go so embarrassingly wrong? Well, here I present to you our first character. His name is Greg Berhalter. The fallout came and was completely expected. Thousands of boos surrounded Berhalter's head. Now, important context to add, Berhalter was already the US men's national team manager. However, he got re-signed. Berhalter was manager from 2018 all the way to the 2022 FIFA World Cup, where he got knocked out by Netherlands. He joined the national team after quite a, how should we say it, catastrophic failure in the year or so prior. May I present to you a country called Trinidad and Tobago. October 10th, 2017 came a night of historic failure. The qualifiers for the 2018 FIFA World Cup in Russia for America was quite a concerning one. The US, of course, became a CONCACAF powerhouse in terms of qualifying and would make 7 consecutive appearances in World Cups since 1990. However, this came to an end, needing essentially a single point to guarantee a spot at World Cup 2018, and they played a country in Trinidad and Tobago that was out of contention, had secured just 1 win in 9 group games, and was fielding a largely inexperienced lineup. The US lost 2-1. This match is so devastating it has its own goddamn Wikipedia page. America went mental. Well, the ones that actually liked soccer at that stage, it did anyway. Most of the country probably just laughed.
Tim Howard. Tim, the Belgium game ended 3 years ago. We need you to save the ball now. Jeff Cameron, clean it up or let's get someone who will. Clint Dempsey, yeah, you're a national team legend. Now we need you to be a national team leader. Michael Bradley, the U.S. does not need you to be zen. The U.S. needs you to play better. Josie Altidore, is this really as good as it gets? Because it's still not good enough. Bruce Arena. Bruce, Jurgen Klinsmann lost at home to Mexico. You lost at home to Costa Rica. This is now all on you, not Jurgen. Oh, and by the way, to all the guys that I didn't mention it because you don't even warrant to mention. That includes you too, Wonder Boy. So, what are you guys going to do? You're going to continue to be a bunch of soft, underperforming, tattooed millionaires? You are a soccer generation that has been given everything. You are a soccer generation who is on the verge of squandering everything. So, now it's time to pay it back. Make us believe again. You don't owe it to yourselves. You owe it to us. And get off my lawn.
Arrogance, embarrassment, weak. Many phrases that was thrown around by a large portion of the American media, and this carried on for a long time. The fallout of this match for Trinidad and Tobago was huge, as it was the end completely of the old US national team. Michael Bradley, Josie Altidore, Tim Howard, Clint Dempsey, many players that was such a constant of the US men's national team. They all had to get moved on after this, either retired or completely phased out of the team, and came in a new manager, a manager by the name of Greg Berhalter, who brought in the young generation of new players to take them forward, the likes of Tyler Adams, Weston McKennie, Yunus Musa, and Serginho Dest, in what was quartered the worst loss in US men's national team history, became a turning point of what was to be hopefully the shining generation of the entire nation. So how did they do? 2019 CONCACAF Gold Cup, making it all the way to the final and as well beating the Trinidad and Tobago 6-0, so you can have that. Curacao beaten, Jamaica beaten. In the final, well, as typical for the Gold Cup, it's pretty much always Mexico v the US. And guess what? It's Mexico v the US. And guess who won? Mexico. Jonathan Dos Santos with the goal late on in the game and a 1-0 win for the Mexican national team. Moving on, each game in group stage won, quarterfinals won, semis won. The final, guess what? Hey, it's Mexico v US again. Oh, what a surprise that is. And the US, they won this time in the 117th minute. Now it's time for the World Cup. This is what actually matters for the people of America, to at least be at the World Cup. Well, they've always been at the World Cup, and will they this time? Yes, but just a difference of 6 goals of goal difference was the difference between USA and Costa Rica going through automatically, with the likes of Mexico, but most importantly Canada, qualified ahead of the United States. This was not a complete disaster, obviously, but it did lead to some concerns. How about the World Cup itself? Well, they had a group of Wales, Iran, and England. Iran and England. That's a pretty interesting group. I'm sure Twitter will be quite nice and calm. They went unbeaten with 5 points and beating Iran in the final day, qualifying for round of 16, and of course got knocked out by the Netherlands. And this was the end of Greg Berhalter. Now there's something important to add about that World Cup. You may have heard about a player called Gio Reyna. The departure of Berhalter was not exactly pleasant. The fact that he came back came as a massive surprise, because despite Qatar being largely praised and finding it quite successful, despite they had one of the youngest teams in the world at the time, there was a large controversial issue between Berhalter and one of the players, Gio Reyna. Gio Reyna played at Borussia Dortmund and was a large talent, which was seen to be one of the sure things to start for the entire tournament. However, he was nearly sent home from the World Cup due to behaviour and being informed that he would not be a starter for the team. Reasons of this is due to allegedly Reyna's lack of effort in training sessions, which nearly led to his dismissal from the team. After those stories, Reyna's parents and longtime friends of Berhalter and his wife, this led them to put a report on Greg Berhalter about an incident 30 years prior in which he kicked his wife. This was, of course, later cleared. This caused a lot of unnecessary drama, so the fact that he came back was also quite a surprise. And also due to one more thing, there was an entire 6-month period where the national team was looking and searching for a new manager. 6 months of scoping and negotiating and interviewing certain managers. This involved them hiring an entire firm to find candidates. Taking 6 months just to hire the same guy is quite an embarrassment. This is not the first time this has happened. It's been twice now that there's been a long drawn out coaching search just to end up with Greg Berhalter. Anyway, they went on to the Gold Cup in 2023 and got knocked out by Panama, which was an historic moment. And guess who was in that final again? Yeah, you guessed it, Mexico. You know what? Let me just quickly check one thing. When was the last time someone won the Gold Cup that wasn't Mexico or US? Oh my God, only one team ever, and that's Canada in I cannot. Oh, I can believe it. Wow. Anyway, let's take it back to the present day. The 2024 Copa America. Now, Copa America, you may be thinking, wait, but isn't that the South American tournament? Yes, it is. But sometimes Copa America is a little bit, they kind of make their own rules sometimes. So sometimes they're like, hey, Qatar and like Japan, you fancy joining in? It's meant to be South American, but sometimes they're just a bit funky like that, which led to people thinking that they just want Messi to win a tournament. And Messi lost in a final twice to Chile. Oh, that was an interesting time. The 2024 Copa America was simply a test run for what was to be the big World Cup showcase in 2 years' time. And the American team looked stacked full of talent compared to previous years, where 15 players played last season in the top 5 European leagues, many in Champions League, many for Premier League clubs. It felt like this had what it takes to go further, and in a group of Bolivia and Panama, it looked like it should have been an easy step into the quarterfinals. The first game they had Bolivia, a 2-0 win, and then the second game, it all fell downhill. Timothy Weah had a completely embarrassing sending off after only 18 minutes. And despite Balogun scoring the first goal of the game, a late comeback in the second half led to America losing to Panama in a disastrous game, meaning that they had to go and beat Uruguay in a must-win game against a really good Marcelo Bielsa side. The Americans had put out a decent performance, however, they inevitably fell in the end. Maybe the response to all of this has been quite unfair. If it was not for the red card in the 18th minute, then none of this may have happened in the first place. Maybe they would have went on to beat Panama, where many people would have convincingly expected them to, and therefore that Uruguay game would have been somewhat of a dead rubber, and would be facing Colombia in the quarterfinal. You could never guess what may happen at that stage. However, Greg Berhalter will be receiving a large bit of criticism. And the issue is there's no obvious manager to come in to be better than what Greg Berhalter is already doing. There's no obvious candidate for that would do a better job, which is why second game would be a very tough call. People are already calling out for Jurgen Klopp to come in, however, I simply cannot see that happen. And this is where I present to you the pay-to-play system. Pay-to-play is a model in American youth soccer which refers to a system of young players and their families paying fees to take part in organised soccer programs at clubs or academies, which is a massive problem. Playing football is very simple, and it's also the perfect idea of a meritocracy, where it doesn't matter where you're from or your upbringing. If you're good enough at playing football, then you will rise to the top. In America, it's not as simple as that, because if you have the money, you can pay to get the resources and coaching needed for young players. However, if you cannot afford that, then there's instantly a barrier in the way. The massive drawback is the fact that it creates massive financial barriers for many young players and their families to actually take the world of football seriously. The cost of club fees, travel, equipment. I mean, travel alone is very expensive in America, and to not be able to pay for this is a massive problem, and this massively creates a disparity between the poorer communities with young footballers that would like to get into the sport, however, will exclude them completely from the system due to financial constraints, which limits the entire talent pool that could even be found and identified in the first place. Another issue is one more thing. When you got a system relying purely on money, and if you are a business or an academy, you are reliant on more and more players to come to your academy, meaning that you may be left in a situation where you may have players that you simply keep on with no intention of actually keeping them for the longer period, just so that you can keep getting money out of them, seeing players as more of a financial asset than seeing them as a player to develop. And this has happened many times too. This simply has to be the most important part to improve in the United States. You can't have a barrier to a large portion of the country into the sport. It simply doesn't make any sense. Greg Berhalter is likely to lose his job in the next couple of days, and if not, then it may lead to another situation where they're going to be asking the same questions for another 2 years. The golden generation, as it is right now for many people, will still be seen as a failure. However, is this particularly fair on Greg? You tell me down below. Tell me down below your thoughts about the situation in America right now, and what will have to change for the future. Who would you want to be the next manager, or will you simply stay where you're at? It's a quite hard question to ask right now, because there's not many managers that would actually take the job right now, and that leads to this very awkward situation. So comment down below your thoughts, like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time for another video. See ya.